anything. I was 28 when I took my first big gamble to develop a hotel in Midtown Manhattan, the Grand Hyatt, and it worked out incredibly well. But I was very young at the time. I was like a very young person in sort of an old person business. Steve Jobs was 21 when he founded Apple. Walt Disney was 21 when he founded Disney. James Madison, James Monroe, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson. They were no older than 25 when they began the journeys that etched their names into the history books for all time. So to everyone here today, don't waste your youth. Go out and fight right from the beginning, from the day you leave this incredible university. Go out and fight tough, fight fair, but go out and fight. You're going to be very successful because now is the time to work harder than you have ever worked before. Push yourself further than you have ever pushed yourself before. Find your limits and then smash through everything. Go and smash through. You've watched that football team smash through. You're going to do the same thing. You're at the age when you have the time and vitality to do really incredible things. If you just give it your all. You'll look back and a decade from now, you'll be astounded by what you've achieved. You'll remember this day. You'll remember when the guy named Trump was giving the commencement address and he said I could do it, and guess what? I did. I think you're going to remember that very fondly. I hope so. Second of all, and very importantly, you have to love what you do. Okay? You have to. I rarely see somebody that's successful that doesn't love what he or she does. That's way you really like. Work isn't work. It's fun. I find it fun. I work all the time, and I find it fun. If I didn't find it fun, I wouldn't be successful, whether it was real estate or in showbiz. I had a lot of different careers, but I loved real estate so much, and I was very successful at real estate because I loved it. I learned a lot from my father because I watched him work. He worked he was a workaholic. He worked. He loved to work. He's a good man. He was a tough guy, tough as hell, actually. Now that I think back, I don't know if you could even get away with that nowadays. He was tough, but he was a good man, I'll tell you. And he worked 7 days a week. He worked Saturdays, Sundays. It didn't matter. And I learned by watching him, he loved his life. He loved what he was doing. He had a great long-term marriage, a long, many years. He beat me on that one. No, mine are very successful, but they haven't lasted quite as long. It was close to 70 years. That was a long time. Said, Pop, you beat me on that one. But you know what I learned from him? That he loved life, and all he did was work. I see people that don't work hard, and they're miserable. So go out and find. But he loved what he was doing. And you have to find something that you love, and you have to follow your own instincts. Listen to your parents. They're very wise, but you have to follow your instincts and your heart, your soul, and you want to be the very, very best you can be. Treat every day like a home game against Auburn. Fight like hell and enjoy doing it, and your coach can tell you all about that. Third thing is to think big. You know, you're going to do something, you might as well think big. Because it's just as tough. You can think small. I know a lot of people, they thought small. They're very smart. I know others that weren't nearly as smart, but they had a better picture of the big picture, because it's just as hard to solve a small problem as a big problem, and it's just as much energy and everything else, except the result is going to be a smaller one. So love what you do, but think big if it's possible. Now, if it's not possible, that's okay too. You do something, you have to do something that you love. You will have all the same headaches and challenges, all the same delays and setbacks, so you might as well do something that's just amazing. America doesn't aim small, Alabama doesn't aim small, and neither do you. So think big when possible, think big. Fourth is work hard. Work hard. Never, ever stop. An example is a great athlete, actually, Gary Player, golfer, great golfer. He wasn't as big as other men. He was actually on the small side. Don't tell him that. Friend of mine, don't tell him that, because he doesn't understand that. But he worked very, very hard. He made up for it. He never stopped. He won 168 golf tournaments. Think of that, 100. I said, Gary, you're winning like every weekend. do you ever choke or anything? I don't know what choke means. And he made a statement years ago that I read, and I thought it was sort of an incredible statement. He said, it's funny, the harder I work, the luckier I get, right? Think of that. The harder I work, the luckier I get. So you really have to work hard, and you're going to be successful because you have the talent. To get into this school is not easy. To get through it is even more difficult. You have a lot of talent. Fifth is don't lose your momentum. You just want to keep it going. And you have to know if you are losing it, you have to know when you're losing it. So maybe you stop and maybe it's time to stop. Listen to the feedback. Think through your plan very carefully and keep moving fast. The word momentum is very important. I mean, I'll just tell you a little story about a great real estate developer named William Levitt. He built Levittown. Some of you might live in a Levittown. He was the biggest developer in the whole country in the 1940s and so. And he built these jobs. He started with one house, then 2 houses, then 20 houses, then thousands and thousands of houses. And a company, Gulf and Western, came along and they said, we're going to make you an offer to buy your company. And they offered him a lot of money, more money than he ever thought he could make. And he retired, lost his momentum. He retired. And he led a beautiful life. He had a wife, I must tell you, it was his second wife. It was a trophy wife, what can I say? I don't like telling you everything, but we're all friends, right? Can we talk? We're all friends. He had a trophy wife. And he lived a different life. He moved to the south of France, but he it was a life of tremendous luxury. He had so many millions of dollars. He was given a fortune for the company. And 10 years went by, and then 15 years went by, and he got a call from this big conglomerate, Gulf and Western, and they said, we're not doing well with the purchase, because he used to pick up every nail, every piece of sawdust, every piece of wood, every chip, everything, and he'd sell it. He'd make a couple of bucks. Everything was perfect. They can't do that. You know, these big companies, they don't do that. You see it a lot when an entrepreneur sells to a big company and then he ends up buying the company back for peanuts later on. Happens a lot. But he was the best at what he did. But 15 years went by and he was so excited, and they sold him back his company. And he started, and he was going to tear apart the world because he got bored with a life of luxury. And he started building and building and building. And the markets turned on him. And he went bad, he lost everything, and he went bankrupt, absolutely bankrupt. And it was a sad story to read. It was such an amazing story because he was so rich, but he paid them, and he bought it for the right price, bought it low, but he went wild. But he lost his momentum. He wasn't good at it anymore. And he was at a party on Fifth Avenue, I'll never forget. And it was a party of a very, very powerful man who was having the party in a magnificent apartment overlooking the park. And I walked in, and there were 50 or so people. I recognized most of them, all the biggest business people in the world, actually. Very glamorous. I was doing well. I was young, and I was doing well. And I was invited to parties like that. And I looked in the corner, and there was Mr. William Levitt sitting all by himself on a chair, looking very glum. Nobody was talking to him, because you'll find that when you're not successful, you lose a lot of friends. It's not a good situation. But there was nobody talking to him, but I wanted to talk to him because I was in the real estate business and he was, and most of these people were in different businesses. And I went over and talked to him, and I said, how are you, Mr. Levitt? He goes, Donald, he knew who I was. Not well, I'm not well. I said, so can you come back? He said, no, son, I lost my momentum. I shouldn't have done it. I lost my momentum. And I never forgot that expression. He lost his momentum. If he would have kept going, instead of selling and relaxing and going into a different life, he probably would have been 3 times bigger than he was, but he lost his momentum. And you have to know when it's your time. I mean, there'll be a time when you do lose. You see it with fighters. You see it with a lot of people. They have a great record and they retire, and then 4 years later they say, I'm going back. I can beat that guy, and they get knocked to hell. And it's not good. It's not good. So he lost his momentum. You have to know when your momentum time is up. I call it momentum time. But Follow your momentum. It's a very important word. You don't hear it from too many, but I've seen it. I've seen it a lot. Number 6, if you want to change the world, you have to have the courage to be an outsider. In other words, you have to take certain risks and do things a little bit differently. Otherwise, if that weren't the case, everybody would be successful. It doesn't work that way. Progress never comes from those satisfied with the failures of a broken system. It comes from those who want to fix the broken system. And you'll make the bigger money, you'll make the more success by acting that way. The other way may be more secure, but if you want to go to the top, you're just never going to do it unless you break the system. Change is never easy, and the closer you get to success, the more ferociously those with a vested interest in the past will resist you. They want to resist. So I just say, trust me on that, because I know you really do. You have to break the system a little bit and follow your own instincts. But if your vision is right, nothing will hold you down. Nothing. You have to have the right vision. If you look at some of these internet people, I know so many of them. Elon is so terrific, but I know now all of them, they all hated me in my first term, and now they're kissing my ass, Do you know? It's true. All of them. It's true. It's amazing. It's nicer this way. Now, in the first, they didn't know what happened because I won an election that, there was never a businessman that won a presidential election. Out of 100%, 8% were generals and 92% were politicians. Not even admirals, not even just generals. There are 8 generals: General Washington, General Grant, General Eisenhower. But 8% were generals and 92% were politicians. And when I ran, everyone said, well, he can't win. He's a businessman. That's not going to work. And, but you have a natural instinct for things. I guess I had a natural instinct. I said to somebody, was I a better businessman or a politician? And they said, well, there are a lot of guys that made a lot of money, but there's only one guy that became president that was a businessman, so I guess you're a better politician. But I don't think of myself as a politician. I think of myself as a businessman, and I'm proud of that. And I've applied business instinct, and that's why I think you're seeing us doing so well. So number 7 is to trust your instincts, common sense. You can go very far in life with common sense, and I applied that to politics because some of these things, like they had open borders. Let everybody in the whole world flow into our country. That's not common sense. They had transgender for everybody. We ended that, if you noticed, okay? But they had transgender for everybody. They said, I said, this is not working. This is not going to work. As I said before, so simple. Men playing in women's sports. Did you ever see some of the records? Did you ever see some of these boxing matches? We have to protect. These women are great athletes, but we have to protect. If you looked at the Olympics where they had transitioned people going into the boxing, where the women had boxing, and they had a great champion, a female boxer. I mean, after one punch, she walked back to the corner and said, I can't get hit like that. I've never been hit like that before. You look at all the volleyball players that have been hurt so badly with balls that are hit at levels that they've never seen before. But the greatest is like weightlifting. You ever see the weightlifting? Where they have a record that wasn't broken in 18 years? And they have, should I imitate it? My wife gets very upset when I do this. She said, darling, it's not presidential. I said, yeah, but people like it. Should I do it or not? All right, I'm in trouble when I get home, but that's okay. What the hell? I've been in lots of trouble before. But no, you look at the weightlifting where 18 years it stands, and they have this young woman, and her parents are right where you are in the front row, and they're so proud of her, and it's like 209 pounds, and she's going to lift that. The record stood for 18, think of it, 18 years, and they put 1/8 of an ounce here, and 1/8 of an ounce here, little bit, and she's going to do it. Mom, I love you. I'm going to do it for you, Mom. And she goes, and she lifts, and she gets it. And Mom, I'm going to do it, Mom. Can't do it. And then a guy comes along, or a gal, or whatever. A transitioned person comes along. And he was a failed weightlifter as a man, but he comes along, 206 pounds. They put the little thing on, and he goes, boom, boom. And breaks the record like by 119 pounds. That's not right. The other one is the swimming. You've heard me talk about it. Great swimmers, and you know, they rose to the top. Women swimmers, and they grew up together. And they're Olympic-class swimmers, and they're qualifying for some big tournament. And now the race is getting ready to start, the big race, and one young lady, she was going to set the record. She fought all her life to set the record. She has to win it by one-ninth of a second. Think of that, 1/9. I don't like those odds, 1/9 of a second, right? But she looks to the left and she sees all the friends that she grew up with down in California, from all over the country. They're all the best swimmers. Then she looks to the right and she sees the same thing, but there's a person next to her who's a giant. And she looks and she, oh my God, who is that? I don't recognize that person. That was a person that transitioned, and he had the wingspan of Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain, if anybody knows what. And as you know what happened, she was very, very badly injured in that meet because he went by her so fast that she was windburned. They had to take her out. She got serious windburn. He flew back and forth, and she didn't know what, but she got the hell knocked out of her, knowing that I'm only kidding. She wasn't windburned. She was just beaten by a lot. Or the race, did you see the race where they had the best female runners, and they had a guy who was a decent runner, a long-distance race? And he won by 5 hours and 19 seconds. You know, normally you win by like 12 seconds, 2 seconds, a quarter of a second. He won by 5 hours and 19 seconds. It's crazy. And, you know, honestly, it's demeaning for women, very demeaning. These are great athletes. It's very demeaning, and we're going to protect women. We're going to protect women. We're going to protect everybody. So now that I'm in trouble with my wife, I'm going to blame the University of Alabama for asking me to go through with that stuff. But it's pretty descriptive, isn't it, really? It helps when you know that borders are not racist, speech is not violence, America is good, terrorists are bad, men can never become women, police are not criminals, and criminals are not victims. Eighth, everybody should believe. Thank you. Thank you very much. Everybody should believe in the American dream. It's real, it's there, and it's right before you. We're coming back to the American dream. Ninth, think of yourself as a winner. The power of positive thinking. Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, from many years ago, wrote a book, The Power of Positive Thinking, and there is a lot to it, the power of positive thinking. Don't consider yourself a victim. Consider yourself a winner. In recent years, too many of our young people have really been taught to think of themselves as victims and blame people and be angry. Don't be angry. But in America, we reject that idea that anyone is born a victim. Our heroes are the ones who take charge of their own destiny, make their own luck, and determine their own fate despite the odds, despite all odds. That's what happens. They're given a little chance in many cases, very little chance of success, and they become the most successful people in the world. Whether you were born rich or poor, black or white, male or female in America, anyone can be a winner. And our whole country will be cheering you on, and I'll be at the front of the line cheering you on, especially because you come from this incredible university. And next is to be an original. The all-time greats were people who had the confidence to be a little different. Teddy Roosevelt, Douglas MacArthur, George Patton. Amelia Earhart, Annie Oakley, Muhammad Ali, and so many others, far too many to name, lived their lives with pride, personality, and flair. God only created one of you. Remember that. God created one of you. You're all different. Some are close, but nobody is the same. You're one of a kind. So don't try to be someone else. Just be yourself. And finally, and most importantly, never, ever give up. Never give up. Never give up. And I've learned anything in life, and it's so true. One of the most important things you can learn, if you just went a little bit longer, if you just held out a little bit longer, you would have been successful. Well, the stories of that are legend. But I've learned that perseverance is everything. So whatever happens, no matter where you are in life, stay optimistic and just keep pushing forward. Just don't stop. Never, ever give up. Victory is right around the corner. I've watched Coach Saban win games that really were virtually over. You've seen it. You've been in the stands. He won a couple of games. I said, Coach, you got lucky as hell. He said, I didn't get lucky. I'm a talented guy. You know, those little touchdowns that come out of nothing. He's amazing. But he's a guy that doesn't quit and doesn't know what the word quit even means. He couldn't define it. He took victory out of the jaws of defeat, and you can do that too at every stage in my career. My enemies, of which there were many and probably are right now, I can think of a couple of people that don't like me too much right now. But they said that they have to do everything they can to keep me from winning, to keep me from making it. And I'm representing you, so I have to make it. I have big shoulders, but these are big shoulders. I have to win for you. I'm not winning for myself. I'm winning for you. Do you remember when they said that Donald Trump will never become president of the United States? Remember Barack Hussein Obama said that? Barack Hussein Obama. Donald Trump will never be president. Like 50 other politicians said that. Where are they now? Oh, let me see. Oh, there they are. Where are they now? But here I am standing before you as the 45th and 47th president. You heard that a lot. But against all odds, I did great in 2016. 2016, how great was it? And then I did much better in 2020. Sorry, the election was rigged. But it was a rigged election. And then in 2024, I made it too big to rig. I said, we got to do this again. We got to do this again. And we made it too big to rig. We made it. That was a great expression. I said, you got to go and vote. Even though I was leading big in the polls, I said, it doesn't matter. You got to make it too big to rig. And they did. They went out and they voted and voted and voted. And we won the whole thing. And it was so good. And it's such a great mandate for our country. That's the important thing. So never let anyone tell you that something is impossible. Ever, ever, ever. In America, the impossible is what we all do best. There is nothing you cannot do if you are willing to fight for it. You got to fight, fight, fight. Oh, I've heard that expression. Funny. That's not here. That's not here on the actually, most of what I've said tonight is not on the teleprompter. That's all right. Isn't it nice to have a president that doesn't need a teleprompter and can sort of have a little fun? Because I feel that this is home. You know, it's been such a great state for me. I feel it's home. When they said Alabama, I said, that has a good ring to me. But it's something nice about somebody that doesn't need a teleprompter, isn't it? Huh? But for the past 4 years, you've lived in a state known for its fighters, its champions, and its warriors. And you've lived in the great state of Alabama, one of the greatest of them all, from Huntsville to Birmingham, from Montgomery to Mobile, and from right here in Tuscaloosa to the gleaming shores of the Gulf of America. That is a nice thing. Everybody loves it. I wouldn't say Mexico's thrilled, but you can't have them all. They're not thrilled. You continue the legacy of Alabama legends who blazed the trails, won the games, tilled the fields, forged the steels, built the ships, and gave us the victories that built America and changed the world. The entire world was changed by our victories. This is the state that gave us the might of the Iron City, the power of the Saturn V rocket, and the roaring engines of Talladega. Talladega. We love Talladega. We love Talladega. This is the state that gave us nothing but victory, the state of some of the greatest heroes in history, like Willie Mays, Jesse Owens, Joe Louis, your coach, Nick Saban, Hank Williams, and many others. Some of you will leave here today and travel the world, but you will always know that this state this is really sweet home Alabama, right? It's always going to be your place. I sort of feel that way myself because from a political standpoint, it's just been, we connected from day one. From the first day I set my foot on this beautiful soil, I connected with Alabama. And here in Alabama, we believe that the men and women who built this country are heroes and that America's destiny is to be the single greatest nation on the face of the earth. And we're bringing it back at a speed that nobody thought was possible. We believe in freedom and family, God and country. We cherish our Constitution. We revere our Bible. And we salute our great American flag. We honor our police. We respect our veterans, and we always stand for our one and only national anthem. We love our national anthem. We believe in strong parents, strong values, strong communities, and very strong borders. And we believe that the United States military is the greatest force for peace and justice the world has ever known. We have a great military. We just had people that didn't know how to lead it. We believe the South is beautiful, Alabama is great, and America is our home. We believe in the SEC and the USA. Graduates of the Alabama class of 2025 standing here before you in this magnificent arena, it is clear to see the next chapter of the American story will not be written by the Harvard Crimson. It will be written by you, the Crimson Tide. True. That's true. That's true. That's true. I thought that was rather clever. If you look at what's going on, they get their $5 billion a year. That is not going to be so forthcoming. Now, wasn't that a clever one, though? Huh? Who would think of that? Because this is Alabama, and at Alabama, you fight, and you win. That's what you know how to do. Congratulations to you all. Congratulations to this great class of champions. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Welcome back. Well, yet another left-wing advocate dressed in a black robe showing mercy for those sympathizing Hamas terrorists. U.S. District Judge Jeffrey W. Crawford. Let me repeat that. Judge Jeffrey with a G Crawford of Vermont ruled yesterday to release Mohsen